Oh, big deep breath. If you're looking for Jesus, who moved? When you're looking for that kind of comfort, when you're looking for clarity, for illumination, for zeal, will, enthusiasm, for peace, for faith, for power, for love, for life, like who moved it? Isn't there a book about that? Like who moved my cheese? Like who moved my peace? Who moved my joy? Who moved my clarity of mind that says, oh, in any situation, I have a different option here. So if I continue to seek and not find, what are the consequences on me? What are the consequences on you to continue to search for what never left? What's the consequences of the search? Anybody? What's the allure to keep searching? The allure to awfulize things. Can anybody relate? Remember my little story about the hotel when I was here last? Like the awfulizing? Well, I just got back from Kenya, as Charlene shared. I got to present at the first New Thought conference in Kenya, in the whole world, in history. Centers for Spiritual Living in Kenya, 2020, Vision 2020. So I got to go and present there. So we got to take books and things and materials for teachers that are going into schools there and teaching New Thought principles, unity principles in schools there. In all kinds of schools, including slum areas and non-slum areas, that these teachers get to go in once a week and provide a teaching and training in New Thought principles. So it was quite something to hear the young ones and the not so young ones expressing principle and what it means to them, and to have that in their life. We also packed up at their request certain supplies, books and materials and things for the school, and children and hygiene products and all sorts of things that could really be useful. And everybody that went in my group, there were 6 of us, we packed these big overstuffed 60-pound suitcases, 2 each, to take over there to deliver these. And then, I don't live anywhere. I travel. I'm somewhere different every few days, so I have my little carry-on bag that's got to do, that'll fit neatly under the seat. And all these bags came off, all but mine. Oh, after all I've done for God. So what would the other aspect of mind, what would the other polarity of mind make that mean? Where's the problem? The bag's not there. Where's the problem? In believing it should be there. In believing that it's a problem, the second I call this a problem, what have I created for myself? So who just checked me into Hell Hotel? Who just checked me in? So who holds the power to quickly check me out of Hell Hotel? So turn to somebody by you and tell them, hey, you got to check yourself out, pal. Check yourself out of Hell Hotel. You're holding the key to your own liberation in any situation. That's just one situation. And oh, the allure to talk about it. And then I noticed there's no bag. I fill out their report. And then the next day, word has spread that Martha didn't get the bag. Martha, ain't that awful? Well, it wasn't awful till I heard it. I hadn't even missed the bag. Then, have you got your bag yet? Have you got your bag yet? So what became the focus? So guess what I'm not experiencing to the degree any kind of joy, happiness, service, what I'm there for, my why in being there is usurped by this elephant of a bag that's all created of mind. When there's no problem in what is, only a problem the second I name something a problem. Then I'm going to experience it as a problem, and then, oh, woe is me. And then the power to awfulize it, to talk about it, to dramatize it, to bring it up. And then as I would call to track the bag, like, where's the bag? Okay, it'll come tomorrow. Then tomorrow, it'll come tomorrow. And then on the third day, they said, it's in Tel Aviv. I mean, you can't make up stuff like this. So where's the problem? So I'm working, as you are, I believe, at creating my own experience, which is the basics of Unity's teaching. That says, I don't have the power to get that bag there. If I had the power to get that bag there, it'd be there. If I had the power to end suffering in the world, would we have any? If you could end suffering, would we have any suffering in the world? So is suffering included? And are bags delivered sometimes? Yes, and not delivered sometimes. But how often are they delivered right on time? And how often are they not delivered right on time? But we lack this perspective, right? We lack a perspective that, wait a minute, 90-some% of the time it goes just fine. That's a miracle. But oh, the once. Unbearable. Awful, awful, awful. So today's topic is quits, things to quit. So you got a message in your meditation, some of you, of some things that may be for you to quit. It could be some habit you have, or a complaining, or resentments, or what was your message? And I have a list of 8 that comes out of material that I've used over the years in various immersion processes and year-long trainings and things that I facilitate, that's called emotionally healthy spirituality. Because we claim we want spirituality, and it's not possible to have spiritual health without emotional health. This is proven scientifically, that the emotional quotient, the emotional IQ, the EQ, emotional spirituality is necessary before we can have a spiritual maturity. So these come right out of that material, which is written by Peter and Jerry Scazzara. And you can look it up online and find their work. And they're in an interfaith, intercultural, mega ministry up in New York. And several books written about it. And they're out there in the narthex. This list is provided for you today if you want it. And then if you hang around for the workshop, we're really going to dig in here and get a new framework around this and take out a root system of this old belief system that we have that's archaic, and get a new root system down, a new framework about this. So stay if you can. Have a bite and stay. And if you know anybody in your life that suffered just enough, text them or call them and tell them to get over here. Just say, she's crazy enough, you want to check her out, you know. She actually believes that there's another way to be in the world. So let's see what's actually possible about that. So the first on this list of quits is to stop, to quit being afraid of what other people think about you. Would that be okay? So let's use 1 or 2 as an example. Like, I think I'm fat. You think I'm fat. We have everything in common. What would you be afraid of? People think you're grumpy. Have you ever thought you're grumpy? Altogether? Yes. So again, we agree. They think you think you're needy and whiny at times. So So when other people say, hey, you're needy and whiny, what would your response be? I know. Like, well, of course. I'm Alpha and Omega. Alpha and Omega, everything in between. There's nothing you can think about me that I don't already think about me. The worst thing anybody can think about you, you already think about you. It gets funnier and funnier. So what if after this moment in time of 2020, you had less fear about what people think about you? What would that be like? Would that be okay with you? If you left here today with less fear, less concern about what others think about you, realizing that there's no new thought under the sun? Like, of course they think it. I think it. What if you could no longer be afraid of thoughts? What if you could no longer be afraid of concepts, of words on a page, of letters strung together? What if that left you today? What would that be like? Freedom, liberation. Get a sense of that in your body. Number 2, quit pretending. Quit lying to yourself. Quit lying to us. Does this sound easy? You know, how are you? Fine. Fine, fine, fine. It's all good. It's like, well, tell your face. Because it has not caught up. Versus what would it be like to just literally hear a question and to answer it, you know, like I'm in a state of worry and I'm working with it. Or I'm having an experience of sadness and I know that every rainstorm runs out of rain eventually. And it's an experience I'm having. It's part of humanness. So what's the consequences on you if you keep lying and keep pretending? What's the consequences on your spirit to keep lying and pretending? What's the consequences on your spirit? Yes. It's heavy. It's stifling and constricted. It's an insult. It's a thief of joy. Like even in times of sadness, to not admit that I have, that it's part of my humanness to have experiences of sadness some. To stop pretending. To stop lying. Now this gets juicy. Because I was a minister up in Unity of Louisville for several years. And I served in a transition period. And when I left, the end of December, I set an intention and an agreement that I wouldn't go back for 90 days so that they could like work through whatever they were going to work through there. So I got back and somebody come running up to me with their tail wagging. Oh, Reverend Martha, so glad to see you. I've missed you so much. Like nothing's the same without you here. You're the only person in the world that's ever loved me unconditionally. I mean, every hook in the world. You're such a blessing. And then they said, have you missed me? And I'm practicing telling the truth. So I had an internal, spiritual, emotional, physical meltdown because my mind was showing me images of them dying. If I told the truth, that they would die, that they couldn't bear the truth. And I could not lie to save my life because of this commitment that I had made to tell the truth. And so here they are, big eyes, tail wagging. Did you miss me? And I said, you know, honey, the truth is I do love you. And I don't know about unconditional. I don't know about that. But I can say honestly that I love you. And the truth also is I've not missed you. And then I waited for them to die. And he just stood there and he said, well, of course you didn't. I'll see you upstairs. So it's like the truth set us both free. To know the truth and to be free in the truth. So what my mind was imaging and showing me was false. Error thinking, evil thoughts, faulty thinking. And I had to test it to see. Because I value honesty, I value authenticity, I value relationships that are emotionally and spiritually mature enough to bear that kind of authenticity and honesty. So if I want those kind of relationships, who has to do it? It's got to be me. And it's insanity to think that I'm going to have that in my experience if I'm not the one putting that forth into the experience. Big deep breath. Number 3, quit doing things that don't make your tail wag. Quit doing things that kill your spirit. Stop doing things that don't bring you an aliveness. You know what these are. When you're doing these things, time collapses. You know how time will just pass and you can't even believe you've been at it that long? Versus things that kill your spirit is such drudgery. When you think about you've got to do it, it's like those things. To do less of that. Now, I'm not talking about things like floss your teeth. You know, my tail don't wag when I think about flossing my teeth. It does not wag. And I floss them so my teeth won't fall out. So I'm talking about things that day in and day out over time, when we look back at our life and look at we had 50 years to live or 100 years to live, how much of that life was spent doing things I didn't give a hoot about. So I'm either going to regret it or I'm going to be glad that I took on 2020 an antidote to quit some of it and begin to apply it. Number 4 is to quit denying that you have fear. To quit denying that you have sadness and emotions and grief. And instead to integrate the full spectrum of emotion. Like it's part of being human, alpha and omega. So if you have a pulse, check to see if you do, then you know you're going to have fear. It's normal. It's natural. It's part of our operating system. It's wired in us. It's purposeful. And then through our own practices, spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, we can have fear and fear not have us. That we can have an experience of fear and not be paralyzed in that fear. But to see I have fear and I see another option for myself. Big deep breath. This is the mother lode. To quit blaming. Sound easy? So now imagine you're there at that trip and everybody's bag came but yours. Who would you blame? The airline. Then who else besides the airline? The airline employees. The slackers. Then who would you blame? Eventually you'll blame you. I shouldn't have checked it. I should have brought it on the plane. Should have. And then, because we're secretly guilty for everything that doesn't go how we imagine. We're secretly guilty of it like we caused it. Or it's our fault. And that pain of that guilt and the shame of that and the pain of that shame is so intense that it has to be displaced. And you can study this with Brené Brown, the factual psychological effects of blaming. And that what blaming is a discharge of anger and pain. So if you don't do but one of these, and you do that one, you'll have a liberated life. And what's the chances that you're going to get blamed? What's the chances? 100,000%. So then get a sense then of what if you didn't mind getting blamed? The power that holds. So instead of, OMG, can you believe they blamed me? It would be, well, of course they blamed me. It goes with the territory. Any of you parents? Yeah. Can you relate? Like you're the matter with everybody. Number 6 is to quit over-functioning. To quit doing for somebody else what they can do for themselves. To stop intervening on their suffering. To stop taking responsibility for things that you are not responsible for. What are the consequences on your life if you continue to work harder on somebody's life than they're willing to work on it? What's the consequences to your spirit? To your health? Exhaustive, depressive, overwhelming. So who checked you into Hell Hotel? Who's doing it? This is good news. Now who holds the key to check you out? I hold the key, so turn to somebody and tell them, hey, I've got my own key. I've got my key. I can check me out anytime I've suffered just enough. I can check me out of Hell Hotel. I'm going to do it by quitting a few things. Number 7 is to quit faulty thinking. Faulty thinking. Thinking that makes up stuff. So let's imagine that in your house, you desperately want whoever lives there to put the toilet seat down. Now think of all the energy you spent teaching them to put the toilet seat down. So whose thinking is off if you go in the toilet and the seat is up? Whose thinking is off? This is good news. So then, hopeless to want what isn't. Hopeful that, oh, look at me who can just put the toilet seat down all in a second. So I can have it exactly like I prefer if I don't engage this. That would call it awful or a problem. And then it can't end there because then it'll go call them awful. And then it'll call the relationship awful. Then everything is awful. Then our loved ones come home and go, hi honey, how was your day? Fine. Just fine. After all I've done for you. And the last one is to quit living someone else's life. So how much of the life we're living is actually a true life for me? How much of the life that you're living is actually a true life for you? And are they going to pressure us to do it their way? Of course. Think about something you love to eat. And you love it so much you naturally want other people to try it. right? Like, oh, try it. You'll love this. I promise. And then they could be right. But once you try it and you don't love it, once you try it and it's out of integrity for you, or you try it and it's like a shoe that doesn't fit your foot, then who's suffering you by continuing to try to like what you don't, or trying to make things fit you that don't fit you? So the power to take back your own life, the only life you have to live, the one life that is yours by assignment, that is yours by divine appointment. So big deep breath. So get a sense of who you would be and what it would be like if you quit some of this that you've heard today. And as you go out through this week, when people say, how's it going? Say, I'm a quitter. I thought you went to a positive thinking church. It's like, yes, I do. I've got such a positive mental attitude, I'm quitting. I'm helping my positive mental attitude by quitting a few things. I recommend it. So the list is out there. Take it with you if you want. And then hang around for the workshop if you can, and we'll get into this root system and get a different framework around this. And if you want to contact me directly, it's marthacreek.com. You can schedule time with me there on the website. I'm all over flat South and Central Florida through the winter. Next week down in Fort Lauderdale in a place called Bridges Spiritual Center. So if you know people in the area and this message is resonant with you, encourage them to come. Also on the website, there's free resources, 150 free videos, 150 free podcasts. Whatever I have is free. You're welcome to it. You're welcome then to send it on out into the world, because I have a mission and a vision to get our teaching out to the whole of the planet. So I can reach this many, and then we can reach this many, and then eventually, God knows. So any way this teaching will support you, get it out there. There's also a free newsletter, and then I'm here in person tomorrow and the next day. So if you want to meet with me personally for insights, for prayer, for support, to work through something, there's a sign-up sheet out there. You can sign up and meet me here at the church office. And that's on a donation basis. And if you can't do it here and you want to do it privately by phone, you go right to the website to do it. So big deep breath. Imagine roots coming down out of your feet. A new solid ground for yourself. Spacious and open in the heart, and spacious and open at the crown. Transformed, a new potential, a new way of being, a new day, a new way. And it starts right here and right now. So we give thanks for this teaching. We give thanks for the practice, for the principles, for the application. And we give thanks for this gathering of souls and the devotion here in this ministry that is dedicated to being and expressing this Christ consciousness, ever radiating and expanding in and through the world in all the ways that we are being and doing. And so it is. Amen.